he joined in his own state. The profitability of electricity board of Chennai can become more, and he cut down 10,000 employees by making them more efficient and making them less loss in transmission and distribution. Then he shifted to Delhi as Joint Secretary, worked in many departments with very successful way. During his when he was Joint Secretary in the Government of India, this was a Professor Nurul Hussain's dream. Professor Nurul Hussain was the Education Minister. He was chosen by the Peter McKinsey, the chairman of the UNICEF, to go as a UNICEF advisor. So he went to UNICEF in 1980, where he dedicatedly worked for the children of the world for 6 years. And he was an advisor to UNICEF in the child development, nutritional development on third world countries, and he came back and joined in Madras, and in 1988 he became Chief Secretary. He spent 3 years of Chief Secretary, and he came back to center again in Delhi, where he was the Secretary of Parliamentary Affairs and also Women and Children Development. He worked with Vidyacharan Shukla, Mamta Banerjee, and also Arjun Singh. So he has so many experience. His life is full of dedication. When he superannuated in 1994, he was settled in Delhi in Vasant Kunj for 5 years in Delhi, and for few months had gone to Chennai. This is the time when the 29th of October 1999 super cyclone. 10,000 people died. This is the time his contribution of 1964 was remembered by our then Prime Minister Vajpayee. And he said, this is the man who should go to Odisha. In Odisha his work is unparalleled. In rehabilitation of the cyclone, in education he went to all university schools and colleges. He started the district conference where the district MLAs, MPs and chairman of the gender equality, and currently we rank 20 university in the country within a span of 16 years, because the university started in 2006 and it got a graded autonomy in 2018. Now our medical college is 20 ranking, engineering college is 32 ranking, dental college is 14 ranking, and in 60 beds we had 6 retreats who stay, and we treated over 50,000 patients with a mortality of 4%. It is all I can do justice to my university in 10 minutes, not.
Thank you so much, sir. And I would like to request.
His Excellency said that he also decided to leave lucrative UNICEF job where he had already worked for 6 years and decided to come back to India to serve his country. This has great lesson for me, like SOA, even though I had spent 43 years in IIT Kharagpur and I had a small flat also in Calcutta where I could have settled. I belong to a small plant in Calcutta and shifted to this place.
Good morning, all of you.
Good morning,
Thank you, Ashok ji, Acharya ji, for the very kind words you have spoken about me and what little I did for Odisha, which is now Odisha. I had always considered it as a great opportunity that was given to me by the Lord Almighty to serve the people of Odisha towards the latter part of my career. And that opportunity, the God-given, I tried to use to the maximum extent. God works through people, and in this case, it worked through Vajpayee ji, who made it a point to appoint me as governor here. There were many aspirants for this, but the particular time when I was appointed, Vajpayee ji was convinced that I am the right person to do that. So my name was in the panel of governors. He picked it up and said, here's the man to go to Odisha. In fact, that was the only appointment he made in that tenure that he started in September 1999 after the second election, and made all the other appointments wait till he went to South Africa to attend the Commonwealth Prime Minister's Conference and returned. And I did not want to displease Vajpayee ji as much as I wanted to work for the people of Odisha. And when Odisha, the cyclone relief and rehabilitation work progressed, he was very happy to learn about it. Though I was appointed, I was told at the time of appointment, don't worry about coming and paying courtesy visits. Your presence in Odisha is required immediately. And sent a state plane there, asking me to be fetched immediately here. And straight away I plunged into the relief work that was going on. And my wife giving support to me. Even the very first visit by air reconnaissance, she joined me, and actually she was physically pushing the food parcels for the people, for the air dropping. And it continued. I think I should not be speaking too much about all that, which already people have covered. But right through, what I felt was that people were responding very well to all that I was doing. The appreciation and acceptance of somebody from outside the state in what was being done for the people was very much appreciated by the common people. That's what I was very fond of. The common man and woman would see in me a person who was interested in doing something for them without expecting anything in return. And I was so much taken up by these people, I said, okay, let me, even after the cyclone, let me try to do something in every area of activity, whether it be in providing permanent disaster preparedness, involving the local community also. That's one thing I told the government. If you prepare a disaster preparedness plan, which you should, make sure that community involvement is in the preparedness. And that has helped so much when the actual field work commences. I learned this actually from my previous experience, but more importantly, when I went to see Barhampur, which was also affected by the cyclone, the first of the two severe cyclones. The state government had not given much importance to it, and no minister had ever visited it. And when I went to visit, they were so happy to see me. They said, no cabinet minister has come, and here the governor is there. I said, doesn't matter, you need help, and I'll make the government work for you. And of course the government did. The Barhampur University was in total ramshackle condition. I told Vice Chancellor, the government has no funds. Ask the UGC to give you a special grant for this. The Vice Chancellor said to me, sir, UGC doesn't give grants for repairs. I said, well, that may be the normal way of doing things. When there is an extraordinary situation, then UGC also has to respond in an extraordinary way. I said, you give the requirements and send a letter to the chairman of the UGC, give me a copy, and one to the state government. And he did. I think, I don't remember how many crores it was. And this was placed, and I spoke to the Union Minister for Human Resource Development, asking him to increase the VGC to come out in a special way. And they did. In the first, most unprecedented manner, they gave a big grant to Berhampur for reconstruction of the damaged buildings. And very interestingly, Utkal had applied also, but they had no hopes of getting anything. But after what they did for Berhampur, the UGC on its own sanctioned money for Utkal also. So they were surprised. They didn't take any special efforts. You may not have taken efforts, but you're taking efforts for somebody else has paid you off. And so everybody was happy and doing the work. So I had different opportunities at different levels. I must say the government also fully cooperated. Of course, the first two chief ministers were members of the opposition at the national level. And both of them really looked up to me for support, and which I gave. Then Naveen ji became chief minister after 6 or 7 months, and he had been new to politics and administration and was quite willing to be guided by me. And we had a good working relationship, and that way I was able to get the government to do many of the things required for the people. There is no personal anger in any of this because I had nothing to gain at all, and I don't need any. God did not put me in a place where I didn't need anything from here. I think we have been talking a little seriously with me. Talking to the members of the faculty is a little different experience. I have had meetings with faculty in conferences with specified agenda. Here, I have been given that you make your own agenda. So, I'm free to talk to you what I want. And students are not here, or maybe some research students are there, but mainly faculty members. So, when speaking about education and its changing environment, you as members of the faculty, teaching profession, have a big responsibility cast on you. The future of all the students who learn from you is in your hands. It's up to you to mold them. Mold them not only in the academics, intellectually, but also to make them as good human beings with high moral values and character. And also teach them how to overcome hurdles which come your way in the journey of life which goes on. From the time you are born till the time you reach the Lord. Let me, just to make this a little more interesting, say a few things in a very light way. Talking about students' university life, there's an old incident mentioned, I don't think it is real, probably imaginary, about an old alumnus of the university visiting his alma mater and going to the hostel where he was staying when he was a student. And he was very keen to see the same room which he occupied. So with the help of the local people, he went up there and knocked at the door. The student was inside. So after a few knocks he came out and he explained to him the purpose of his visit. And he said, yes, please come have a look. So he saw the furniture. Oh, the same old furniture is there. Nothing new. And then he looked at the window. Oh, the same old window. And the lights, the same old lights. And the view outside the window, it's the same old. And then looked at the closet. And said, the same old closet. And opened the door of the closet. And then he saw a girl coming out. And he was surprised. The girl was more surprised. So the boy started explaining by saying, that is my sister. And the old alumni said, oh, the same old story. Of course, you get the point that it is the same old story. I'm sure he must be recollecting his olden days when such stories were being mentioned. So this is a part of university life. I'm not saying that this is happening in this university hospitals, but just in a lighter way you can look at it. And talking about hurdles, what kind of way in which you can get over hurdles and imaginary, innovative ways of doing it. I'll mention a small incident. This again may or may not be a real one, but brings out a point very clearly. You know, in these Catholic institutions, educational institutions run, there are fathers who do all the stuff. And all the fathers are put up in a place called a Father's Lodge. And the senior father was made a monitor. He is in charge of the discipline. There was one father who was a very compulsive smoker. And he was finding that in the night prayers, the prayers were very long, went on for half an hour or more. And he found it difficult not to be smoking. So this compulsive smoker went to the chief and asked for permission. Can I smoke in this prayer time? The chief said, no way you are going to do that. So he had to somehow control himself and put up with it. Then a couple of days later, he saw another farmer smoking. And then he went and told the chief, you told me that I should not smoke when there is prayer. But how is that one? I am doing it. The chief said, you said you wanted to smoke during the prayer. I said, no. But he said, I want to pray when I smoke. I said, okay, you smoke, you are saying, you are willing to pray. And that's what he is doing. So, you have to find a way of tackling a problem which is facing you. Different ways of tackling a problem. But nothing is insurmountable if you put your mind to it. And this is not just an advice to the faculty members, but this is what I want you to tell the students. In life you will have faced many, many hurdles. Everything has a solution, you have to find a way of doing it. So, if I can mention one more, between a husband and a wife, I don't know what my wife will say about it. One wife had a very sweet dream of her husband giving a gift to her on the anniversary day, a very valuable pearl necklace. So as soon as she got up, she told her husband, so I dreamt that you gave me a pearl necklace on our anniversary, which was the same day. She said, what does the dream mean? He said, I'll tell you this evening what it means. And then she was eagerly looking forward to the gift that her husband was going to give. And in the evening he came with a nice little packet, nicely wrapped, and gave it to her and said, happy anniversary. And she eagerly opened it up and saw there was a book, What a Dream Means. The book was about that. So, between a couple, there is another way of dealing with problems. Of course, he could afford a pearl necklace, so he thought he would buy a book. Well, coming back to something more serious, see, education in the institutions. See, I am no academic to teach any of you anything which is of an academic nature, which you are much better placed than I am, and even more people who are distinguished themselves in academics. But I would like to say, sir, few things about education which is of interest. The first one that strikes me is, see, we are now living in a knowledge society where knowledge is making advancements in a frenetic pace, and it is so difficult to keep pace with all of that. So, we have to be on top of it so that we will be able to compete successfully with the best in the world, with the best of communication facilities available. Everyone knows what is happening. What's happening in this university here, SOA. When you do the most advanced research or publish it in the papers, it gets known everywhere, all over the world. So you are in that league because of the best communication facilities available. So your aim should be the best in whatever field you choose. I'm very happy to learn from your Vice Chancellor. Over 2,000 papers have been published in journals of repute, and I believe some of them are international journals. And the research that is being done here in this university is very significant. And I would, of course, like to say that more and more research should be done, and you should be a leading center. The name of the university itself, Shiksha or Anusamdhan, is really the emphasis on research. Live up to it fully, so that not only your research gets recognized globally, you also are able to develop patents. I believe 36 patents have been awarded to you. That's now I got it from your VC. But I'm sure with the kind of research that you're doing, making it more practical, the applicability of the research, it's possible for you to get many more patents. I know a friend of mine in the US, you all probably know him also, Sam Petrola. When I first got to know him in the early 90s, he told me he has got 610 patents. So he doesn't have to do any work. The money that comes from patents itself is more than enough for his living. So that is the materialistic aspect of patent. But more importantly, it can bring a lot of credit to our country. And if you can make those patents work for new equipment, new procedures, that will be really great for the coordination and the progress in the various fields. So what does this mean to the students? The students will have to be told or made to understand right from day one, what they are taught in schools and colleges is not fully education. Because education is something which goes on right through your life. I am learning today. So at 87, if I can learn, I'm sure people in their 50s, 60s and 70s can learn much better than me. I try to keep in touch with all that is going on, but not always very successfully. Some go beyond, above my head. In fact, when my grandson started a new venture in California, in San Francisco, he started a new company with a product called Convex. Now, he was trying to explain to me, but I couldn't make head or tail out of it. But apparently it has attracted the technologists around the world so much so that Forbes magazine has decided to write about it. They went to introduce my grandson with 2 or 3 pages on this product, Convex. So, if I had more time, I would have sat with my grandson and learnt more about his Convex, but on the phone there are some limitations. So the educational process is a continuing one, and this is something which you have to emphasize. I have heard students telling during my days, oh, I completed my education in this college or that college. You can never complete your education. You may get a degree, but that's not completing the educational process. You may get a postgraduate degree or even a doctorate. No, it goes on and on because the world is not static. It is moving. So you have to be moving ahead. And for that, learning is a continuous process. So when you say that what you learn in the schools and colleges are only means to education, that means it equips you to learn better and better, more and more, and always be in the state of the art. That's what I think you should accomplish. Our own revered Swami Vivekananda said once, education is a process of life building, man making, and character building. Life building, man making, and character building. I'll come to character a little later. But life building and man making, this is what he thought education should do, and I think it is as relevant today as at the time when he said it more than 100 years ago. So, you do the life building, they learn how to build a life, and man making includes of course woman making also. What you want to be, you decide. You may take help from different people, but ultimately a decision that you make for yourself, and that's a decision which is going to carry you through. Once you decide to do something, do it dedicatedly and always excel in it to reach the very top of whatever field you choose. Now, coming to character. Before that, may I say a word about corruption, which is part of the character but some special emphasis on corruption. Today, globally, and more importantly in India, we have corruption spread everywhere. So much so that unless you pay something as gratis, you won't get your job done. This has become a culture. People who are of high integrity and who are honest in all their dealings, they are not encouraged. In fact, they may say, well, here is a good man, a simpleton who does not know how to use the opportunities he has. That's the kind of culture we are coming to. Now what this culture is something we learn from our very childhood. The first responsibility of teaching integrity in character making is the responsibilities to the parents. As good parents, you have to teach your children to be persons of integrity. And later as students, you have the opportunity as faculty in schools and colleges. And if you are in the undergraduate and graduate programs, the last perhaps opportunity in the institution to learn character building. And ultimately, it's character that makes a nation. Khalil Gibran once said, the wealth of a nation lies not in its gold and silver, but in the learning, wisdom, and uprightness of its men and women. Women, of course, I have added. This Lebanese poet, Khalil Gibran, a favorite of mine, had said this, again relevant today as it was at the time when he said it. So let us realize that a person's aim should not be only to produce wealth. And what does it mean if you get a lot of wealth? God has enabled you to get your wealth not for your own purpose of spending it in a way which is not benefiting others. And as Mahatma Gandhi said, think of yourself as a trustee of the wealth that has been given to you. You are the trustee to administer that wealth for the benefit of the people. So that is how the students have to be inculcated in their minds. So let them, when they go out into the wider arena of life, outside the college walls or the university walls, let them always keep in mind the moral values that have been instilled in this institution. In practical terms, you see, there are people who have come up in life and reached the peak of their career. As John Wooden said, ability may get you to the top, but it is character to keep you there. We have seen people who had reached the very top who have not been able to keep that position for long because of lack of character. We have seen in our life people who have risen very high and then fallen like in a precipice. You see, even in recent times, when I see the papers, how this ICICI Bank was rated very high and everybody talked of the chairman of the ICICI. And then what do we see? Corruption, nepotism, family enrichment, this is all what we have seen. And now we are facing cases, criminal cases. People who are on the top could not retain their position because of these bad habits. And there are other instances many. Even very recently I saw that the chairman of the National Stock Exchange is in deep trouble because that character was not there. When she reached the very top, it came out. So, we want our students, through your help, to reach the top positions and have the character to retain those positions so long as they live and are useful to society. Well, as teachers, you have also special responsibility. See now, our country is lacking in one thing, which is role models. There are not enough role models around for people to emulate you. Everybody you think is a role model has serious problems. So the real heroes in life are becoming shrinker. And it's necessary that whatever you teach, you have to live by what you teach, so that you are really role models to them. The best way of teaching is by being the actual practitioner of what you teach. So that's my very humble appeal to all those who have responsibility of teaching and caring for the students. They keep that in mind. I just would like to say what a good leader is. A good leader, as somebody said, I don't know who will remember this, it's not my own. A good leader inspires confidence in him. A great leader inspires them with confidence in themselves. So, how does that happen? It's not for you to just show off that you are a great leader, but make them good leaders themselves. When you do something good, pick up and appreciate that. Say that, oh yes, you have done this very well. You have got something to criticize, put it in a way that you say, yeah, you have done very well. If you do this, perhaps you could even be better than what you have done. Then you will be happy to know it. So do things always in a way that does not discourage your students, but encourages them in whatever they attempt to do. That's another saying. A mediocre teacher talks. The good teacher explains. The superior teacher demonstrates. And the great leader inspires. Different ways of putting the same idea, that you have to be a great teacher to inspire the people who have put under your responsibility, to make them greater than what you are. And many students outshine their teachers. Teachers act like a ladder. They help others to go up, though they themselves may not go up. Or some of them do, but that's a ladder that moves up by itself. But basically you are there to push people up. Well, I have many more points to talk about, particularly about the new education policy and what it means to you. I don't want to go into the details of that. But I do want to point out one thing, that this three-language formula, which has been suggested by the policy makers of the NEP, people from non-Hindi speaking areas are strongly against it, because they think it's an indirect way of imposing Hindi. Why do we have to learn three languages? Your mother tongue and English are good enough. And later, if you want to learn Hindi or whatever other language you're interested in, Chinese or Japanese, you can learn. But to make young minds do all this work and learn three languages in the school stage, the basic problem arises because the National Education Policy Panel had not sufficiently consulted the various state governments. As all of us know, education is a concurrent subject. It's a subject in which the center is involved and the states are equally involved. So it's something in which the states have a lot to say. But the consultation, unfortunately, has been very poor and tardy. So and so, their views are not being fully taken into account. and we have a document which cannot be implemented without the support of the states. So to make it workable, states have to come into the picture and they have to get them to accept or work out something which is a compromise. A good point about these affiliated colleges has been made that in 15 years' time, affiliation of colleges to universities will disappear. Well, 15 years is a good span of time, but not work like that. In practice, what will happen is that it's a gradual process because colleges have to build themselves up to a level of academic excellence, and they have to be able to give the degrees themselves and should be acceptable to others. You're someone you are giving degrees, you're not accepted by anybody. So if today there are institutions abroad, the colleges give degrees, yes, those degree colleges, their degrees are respected very much. So that way, if you are able to get the acceptance, it is fine, but that takes time. Meanwhile, the universities are better known, and if you are affiliated, you get a degree from the university. And the one point on which I disagree is to focus on vocational education quite early in life. If people want to go for vocational education because of various reasons, family reasons or peculiar problems, that is different, but don't make it part of the curriculum. Vocational education should come in much later. When you have had a good dose of general education, a liberal education whereby your mental horizon expands and you are able to understand and grasp not only things in which you are specialized in a subject, but more importantly, all the better things in different disciplines. And that way, of course, there's a very interesting point made that universities must be made interdisciplinary in the courses, multidisciplinary courses. And those institutions should have more than 3,000 students in one place. That's all fine, I don't think there's any problem with that. But it will take time. What is the position of finances for education. In 1966, Kothari Commission has recommended 6% of the GDP should be in the education sector. We haven't reached that even today, it is only 3%. So, the decision makers at the highest level, and for which a lot of prodding has to be done by various people in the education field, to make available sufficient funds. Because whatever private universities like you do, for the poor students, they still depend on public universities and public colleges for their educational attainments. And unless there is sufficient funding from the government for these institutions, there cannot be really a good opportunities for educating them. Well, I think I have made a few points, and the last point I would like to make is that it's not directly related to education, but indirectly, of course, it is. The liberalization that we have done from the 80s and with special emphasis in the 90s has created enormous progress. But what it has done is also the difference between the rich and the poor. That income disparity has become more and more. Let me give you just an illustration of this by giving actual figures. India's richest more than doubled their fortunes during COVID-19, where everyone is suffering, particularly the poor, the migrant labor without jobs, running back to their states, the poor losing their jobs everywhere. The richest people are taking advantage of all this, and they doubled their fortune. India added 40 billionaires to 144, 142 last year during the second wave. The combined fortune is $720 billion, more than the poorest 40% of the population. In 2020, number of poor in India doubled to 134 billion. What are the reasons for this when we think country is making progress? Steep cuts in corporate levies, which is benefiting this richer sections, abolition of wealth tax, increase in indirect taxation, which is regressive in nature, affects the poor more than the rich, reduce funding to local administration, again depending on the central allocation, amid growing privatization in health and education sectors. The World Food Programme of the United Nations has estimated that a quarter of the world's undernourished children are in India. So, things which are progressive in nature in policy making, which are very important, something like progressive wealth tax on global billionaires, high taxes on the rich, prevent tax evasion by all means, taxes on all forms of wealth, not just on a few, like property, etc., but should all financial assets. And these are some of the essentials which every academic makes. Now, what I am trying to say here at this point is that when you make students and as citizens of the country, they should be aware of the milieu in which they are placed when they face their real life problems. And if they can understand this, and all their actions is aimed at providing some kind of help to the poor, the disadvantaged in all that they do, even maybe in research. You find something which is at a very low cost will meet the needs of the poor. It may be in drugs, maybe some of the other essential items. So let them devote more attention to such things so that the disadvantaged sections get the benefit of progress, research and advancement. Well, I think I've said enough. There are more things to say, but that is not something I would like to do at this juncture. I have already taken a lot of your time, and I would like to thank you for the attention that you gave me.
But it is